Now, I don't know if you've had an incident that changed your life, but when I was 10 years old, that day happened to me. My dad took me up to this wonderful fireworks display. There was this blazing fire in front of me. There were this dazzling array of light of the fireworks around, and I held my dad's hand, transfixed by what was going on around me. And suddenly I noticed from the other side of the fire, a guy broke free, and with an intensity and a stare that I'd never seen before and I'd never seen since, he walked straight into the fire. Now, I'd seen fire walking before, but I'd never seen this. This guy was set alight. And I stood there holding my dad's hand thinking, what's going on? My dad ran towards him to get the guy out. So did 3 other people. But by the time they got him out, the guy was ablaze. They put the flames out, and all I could smell was the burning flesh. As I stood there on my own, looking at my sister, wondering what could possibly go on in someone's mind to make them do that. The ambulance came and took him away, and it took him 3 days to die. I know this because my parents told me. Now, we lived in the grounds of a psychiatric hospital. When I was 8 months old, I was moved in to literally a lunatic asylum back in the 70s before political correctness had become trendy. So it was normal activity for us to be surrounded by people with psychiatric issues. We had people knocking on our doors, patients knocking on our doors. Some just wanted cigarettes. One guy tried to attack my mum, but we had an Alsatian dog that changed his mind. But this was normal for me. I was used to this. I was used to people with psychiatric problems. But I'd never seen anyone walk into a fire and kill themselves in front of me, burned alive. And this set me up for the rest of my life, wondering what could possibly go on in someone's mind to cause them to do that. 10 years later, I became a nurse. And I felt great. I was physically in the best shape of my life. I was exercising 6 times a week. I was a fitness instructor. I was at the top of my game. I wanted to give something back. At the same time, my grandmother got cancer. And I watched her die slowly and painfully in front of me. I was close to my grandmother, and this hurt. I was also working with people who had cancer, who were about to die, who had heart attacks. And I wondered what could possibly go on in someone's life, that their own heart would attack them, that their own body would eat them from the inside out. This I couldn't understand. People would be diagnosed with a death sentence. You've got cancer, sir. I'm sorry, you'll be dead in 2 weeks. The doctors would walk out the ward. I'd be left to pick up the pieces. Is there anything that you can offer me to give me hope, Adam? And to have to look someone in the eye when they've been given a death sentence and tell them there's nothing I can do. It steals a piece of your soul. This started me on a quest. 10 years later, my granddad was diagnosed with cancer. I'd watched people die, but this was my granddad. I'd literally held people, their hands for their dying breaths. But this was my granddad. And I had to do something. I'd heard about this thing called Reiki, this universal life force energy, that you could heal the world. I could be universal life force energy man. So I went on this course, Reiki 1 on the Saturday, Reiki 2 on the Sunday. And I heard my Reiki master stand in front of the class, talk about chakras, auras, communications with spirit guides. I thought he was a lunatic. And coming from somebody who grew up in a lunatic asylum, that's saying something. At the end he said, right, Adam, go and heal yourself. Work on yourself first. And I said, look, you don't understand. It's not me that needs to be healed. It's the people with cancer. It's my granddad. It's the people who've had heart attacks who need to be healed. Not me. I'm physically fit. I'm in great shape. And I thought, I can't trust what you say to me. I'm not going to use Reiki. It couldn't possibly work. I spent 4 years training to be a nurse, not to come on a weekend course and get told I could heal everyone, but I had to heal me. It seemed ridiculous. I went home. On the Monday morning after that course, I got given a letter from a company I'd had nothing to do with for 12 months. And they said, Mr. Shaw, it looks like we've overpaid you for the exact amount of money that I paid for the Reiki course. So even with my cynical medical mind, I thought maybe this is a sign from a higher source. So I worked on myself, on my energy field. After 3 weeks, I started to develop a pain. After 6 weeks, that pain was so much that when I turned the wheel of my car, it hurt. I was feeling emotional all the time. For somebody who was used to hiding their emotions, who could literally watch somebody die and walk out of the hospital and switch off. I had it down to an art form, but I was feeling tearful the whole time. I couldn't understand it. And I was working on a coronary care unit. And I knew these weren't the symptoms of angina. It just felt like somebody had attached a rock in my heart. And I thought intuitively, this must be happening for a reason. So I cancelled all of my shifts. I worked on my energy for a few more days. And on the third day, I had this epiphany, this moment of realization where my whole life flashed before me. I had seen this in the wards. I'd brought people back from the dead, resuscitated them, restarted their heart, and heard people talk about this experience, their life flashing before them. But I had no idea what it actually meant until it happened to me. And in that moment, I realized that although I was physically well, that my mindset was catapulting me towards all of the illness that I was hoping to help other people with. Because emotionally, I was repressed. Mentally, I was all over the place. And spiritually, well, I had no spirituality in my life. And from this place, I suddenly realized, like Scrooge on Christmas morning, that if I died that day, that nobody would have known how I felt about them. I'd never used the word love. We didn't in our family. We never hugged each other. We never expressed ourselves in a way that was authentic. And I went to my mum and I sat down. I said, Mum, look, I know we've had our challenges. I know we've had our difficulties in the past. But I need you to know that whatever happens, I'll always love you. My mum looked at me and she said, son, what drugs are you taking? We had difficulty dealing with emotions in our family, and we had to get through this awkward patch with her psychiatric nurse background that there must be drugs involved for my son to be saying the love word. But we eventually had a meaningful conversation and hugged each other, and I felt the pain reduce. So I went to my dad all excited now. I said, Dad, I love you. He said, son, what drugs are you taking? So we went through this awkwardness because we'd never known how to use the word love before. But I gave my dad a hug and it changed everything. I went to my granddad who was dying. I said, Granddad, look, I love you. I love you. And my granddad still died the next month. But I know that I told him how I felt about him. And it helped me and it reduced the pain in my heart. After 3 days of Scrooge on Christmas morning, telling my friends, having these proclamations, I love you, I love you. Accessing the energy of love, reducing the pain in my heart, and then going back to the coronary care unit and seeing people get loads of drugs to deal with their heart issues. I couldn't witness that anymore, so I left the health service and I started working with people to get their head in touch with their heart, to get them to share the things that really matter while they still got the chance, to tell the people that they love them. And seeing the breakthroughs people were having as a result of this. That was my journey, sparked from the man who walked in the fire. And if I've one message for you, if there's anybody in your life who you love and you haven't told them for a while, tell them while they're still alive. Because it's one of the biggest regrets that people have at the end of their lives if they don't.